When a new baby is born, it's the first question. Is it a boy or a girl?
We have a baby girl. A beautiful baby Kirsten.
But the simplest question had no simple answer for Agnes Cox, a Scottish native now living in the U.S.
I got a big tree outside me.
When her daughter Jade was born about 4 years ago, the doctors weren't immediately sure what sex she was.
When Jade was first born, she hadn't got any sex organs, and she just looked like a Barbie doll, exactly like a Barbie doll. Yeah, I was shocked, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
But soon it was her ears she couldn't believe. The doctors told her that though they were able to determine Jade had been born genetically a boy, because of the birth defect, he could never have a normal functioning penis. And they were recommending surgery and raising the child as a girl.
It's oftentimes shocking because everybody expects to go to the hospital and bring home a healthy, bouncing baby, boy or girl, and sometimes when there's a question, it's very, very disquieting to the family and to those of us who treat them.
Dr. John Gearhart is a pediatric endocrinologist at Johns Hopkins Children's Center in Baltimore. A few months after Jade Cox was born, he did surgery to make her genitals anatomically female.
Did we take your tickle bone out or did we leave it in? I forget, huh?
He's been working with the family ever since.
She's a very feminine little girl who enjoys looking feminine and acting feminine. Is a happy, normal little girl.
Okay.
Outsiders might not know such cases exist, but Gearhart and his colleagues see several every month.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
Wrong.
Sure looks like a boy.
Sure does, and that's what fools some people, but this is
It's
not.
easy to be fooled when what looks like male genitalia is in reality grossly malformed female genitalia.
It looks so much like a boy, I'm going to say a girl.
It is a girl.
Cases like these are called ambiguous genitalia. There's disagreement in the medical community over how often it happens, though some claim it occurs as frequently as 1 out of 2,000 births. Causes can range from birth defects to chromosomal abnormalities to accidents.
And can you fix this?
Oh, absolutely.
Not all cases involve switching genders. But when they do, as in Jade's case, the parents usually rely on the doctor's advice to help them make the best choice.
And the best thing was for Jade to have a life was to be a girl. Dr. Gearhart gave Jade life. They kind of lived like that. There's no way I could bring Jade up like that. She wouldn't have no life at all if she had to be left a boy.
I'm telling Mom.
What was done to Jade is known as sex assignment. The sex assigned is most often female because the surgery is much simpler. The idea is to allow kids like her to go through childhood with a clear gender, normal-looking genitals, and no further medical problems. The hope is as they grow, more surgery, hormone treatments, and psychological care will allow them to become adults able to have as normal a sex life as possible, even if they will never be capable of reproducing.
Oh, good girl.
When you are that desperate to have your child helped, and here comes somebody saying it's fantastic, it'll work, you'll believe anything for your child's happiness.
This man, who asked us to disguise his identity and change his voice, is known in medical literature as John Joan. John for when he was born as one of a pair of normal twin boys, and Joan for the years he spent being raised as a girl after a surgical accident left him with virtually no penis.
When the doctors came out to tell your mother about the accident, what options did they give her?
They didn't have no options. He just told her, he says, we can just change him into a girl, and no one would ever know the difference.
So John became Joan, the family and everyone else acting as if the twins had always been one boy and one girl. Joan wore dresses and was encouraged to play differently than her brother. Why would anyone think it could work? The theory was babies are born a blank slate when it comes to gender, and just as children are taught language, they learn to be male or female almost from the moment they get a pink or blue card in the nursery. It seemed to work well for John Joan. According to this Time magazine article from 1973 when Joan was 10, this dramatic case provides strong support that conventional patterns of masculine and feminine behavior can be altered. And these medical textbooks are full of advice for doctors that sex assignment at very early ages works, based in part on how well the report said things turned out for Joan. There was just one problem. The reports were wrong.
It was a flop. It was a failure. Sorry.
Yet the medical literature for years had said that you were a success story.
Well, you know, if they call that a success, well, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm telling you that I'm living proof it was not a success story. I mean, it's BS.
How could they have gotten it so wrong? I mean,
They wanted to. They wanted to believe it.
bad science?
Yes.
Dr. Milton Diamond of the University of Hawaii never bought the blank slate idea. What he found out, published in this medical journal, turned the John Joan case upside down. When Diamond located John Joan, he did not meet a happily adjusted female, but rather someone who had been living as a male again for roughly 20 years, and who was quite bitter about his past.
I thought I wasn't it. That's what I thought it was. I mean, I thought either I wasn't it or I was crazy, because people are telling me who I am, but I realize what girls do, and I wasn't anything like that.
Do you think the doctors did the best they knew how then?
No, because I showed all the signs that it was not going to work, but they wanted it to work, and they let it go on and on and on. I mean, that is maddening.
Rather than looking between the kids' ears, they look between the kids' legs. And if it looks good, they think they did a good job. Again, they're reluctant or not even trained to ask the kid how they're adjusting.
Joan was not adjusting well, even though her genitals looked like a normal girl's. Other kids sensed something unusual about her and teased her about not being very feminine.
I had like I don't know what you would call it. I think maybe it was a nervous breakdown. I'd cry for nothing. I'd have the shakes. I'd be huddling in a corner. And
Finally, after years of knowing something was wrong and battling doctors and therapists who told him nothing was, at the age of 14, John gained the strength to say on his own, "I am a boy." That only began a new nightmare. He stopped taking female hormones right away, but it took years of new surgery to reconstruct the penis. And even then, he wasn't free to just start life over. To this very day, even though he is now married with 3 adopted children, he lives in constant fear of people finding out about his past, while at the same time struggling with it himself.
Was it difficult to have the reconstruction done?
it was very, very painful.
Can you have sexual relations with your wife?
Definitely.
Can you feel anything?
Definitely.
Could you father biological children?
No, you would have to get your testicles intact for that.
Does the fact that you look like a man, you sound like a man, you walk like a man, make it easier now as an adult to put any of this behind you?
No, I mean, how can you put something like that out of your mind?
According to Dr. Diamond, the lesson of the John Joan case is that gender identification comes from the brain, not the genitals.
The problem with the John Joan case really is that it is just one case.
Child psychiatrist William Reiner wants to know if what happened in the John Joan case will inevitably happen in every other case. To children like Jade Cox.
When I first heard, it sort of frightened me. I thought, oh no, have I done the right thing? But I just think back to when I seen Jade in that incubator, and I know I've did the right thing.
Oh, you know how to do that, don't you?
Jade is one of 16 children Dr. Reiner is studying at Johns Hopkins, all genetic males being raised as females. This is the first time a group of children will be followed through puberty and adolescence. With kids as young as Jade, Reiner uses play therapy to get an idea how their brains are working.
People are going to look at her and say, what a sweet, feminine little girl. She looks like a girl,
She does,
but she's playing like a boy.
yes. Much more like a boy.
But she's preferentially picked up the army men, shooting them, play acting with army men and not dolls.
Right. The dolls are still up on the table and haven't really been disturbed. This is pretty male-typical behavior. This is not dramatic, but on the other hand, she's a little girl.
I saw some video of Jade playing with the toy soldiers, and I know there were dolls in the room that she passed by. Does that register as boy behavior to you?
tomboy behavior, girl behavior?
Well, I was the same when I was younger, too. I used to play with boy stuff. She reminds me of a tomboy the way I was when I was younger.
Two of the older children in Dr. Reiner's study have in fact declared themselves male at about the same age John Joan did.
Would you be surprised if later in life Jade declares herself a boy?
No.
Do you think it might happen?
Yes, I think it might happen.
I would respectfully disagree with Bill. I think that she's a very feminine child. I've seen her interact with her mom, with my staff, with other children, and I think that she'll stay in the female sex ovarian. I really do.
In the wake of the John Joan case, Dr. Diamond believes guessing shouldn't be part of the equation. He thinks children can grow up healthy, regardless of the appearance of their genitals. So to him, any cosmetic surgery on an infant's sex organs is a mistake. As hard as it might be to imagine, Diamond wishes doctors would advise parents to do nothing until the child is old enough to express whatever its brain is indicating.
What about your critics, who will say, look, growing up is confusing enough. You just let a kid figure it out and talk to them. That's too much pressure. It's ridiculous.
Fine. Why is that any more pressure than having genitals you don't believe are yours?
Society can't make you into anything that you're not. You got to be you, and only you know what you are, and no one's got the right to make that decision for you, because you're the one who's got to live that life. No one else has to.
For your critics who say, look, trot out your happy patients, your satisfied customers.
Sure.
Where are they?
Well, they're around. I mean, they're all over the country and the world, from many reconstructive centers in this country and other countries. But, you know, it's a very private, when people have a nice result, they want to go home and enjoy their child and forget about it.
Jump. Woo! I think Jade's going to be okay. And she might come to me one day and say, I don't think you made the right decision, or she might know. If she does, I'll cross that bridge when I come. I've got things I can say to her, and I can make her understand. I love her to death. I wouldn't have her any other way. There's my good girl.
Jade's mother tells us her daughter is doing well and will be entering kindergarten in August. And since our story first aired, she's received letters and phone calls from parents around the world who have children with the same condition. She told us she plans to meet with at least one woman from Pennsylvania who has a child Jade's age.